sometimes shame and self-hatred can be really helpful for growth. I don't encourage anyone to hate themselves or feel ashamed, but sometimes we need to go through the pain of something to get to the other side of it, right? Like I have this, I don't know, I've been struggling a lot lately for a while, and I have a lot of like, I have some self-hatred, I have some shame that I'm carrying, and things that I need to focus on, things that I need to face. I talked in a previous video about not wearing my uniform, my black belt very often, and that's something that I have to face and I have to do. And there's, I struggled so long after quitting the dojo I was at, after getting my black belt. I struggled for so long with my training, with everything, with so many things in my life. I struggled. And I have this, for a while, I had this like shame around it that I'm like, am I really a black belt? Am I really a martial artist if I'm not wearing the uniform, if I'm struggling with my training? Am I legit, or am I a fraud? Right? I struggled with that. And after going through a stalker situation and quitting that dojo, for a long time, I didn't talk about it. And it was months and months and months later, I made a video about it. But I felt this shame around it, that like when you're a victim of something, you do carry this shame because there's people who aren't going to believe you when you say, this is what I went through. And I had that. I had people say, yeah, I don't believe you, or they see the other person's side of it and think that I was the problem. So I carried a lot of shame around all that stuff. And it's something that I think I still am carrying to a degree that I have to work on. But I'm seeing that there's value in facing that shame. And like I've talked in videos about how important it is to speak kindly to ourselves, and that we can do that. We can learn how to speak kindly to ourselves. But I do see value in facing the thoughts that are not so kind. And I'm not saying we should be mean to ourselves, but sometimes we are. And there's value in looking at that and saying, well, what can I learn from that? Like if I'm saying something to myself that's not very kind, it's like, well, I'm hating myself. What can I do so that I love myself again? Rather than using self-hatred as a way to motivate myself, I'm not saying that. I'm saying seeing that self-hatred as a sign that I'm unhappy and I want to love myself again. So what can I do so that I love myself again, so that I'm proud of myself again, so that I can speak kindly and respectfully to myself again? So something that happened like when my mom died in 2021, like I felt like part of me died along with her. And I want that piece back. I want her to come back, and I don't know how, and I've struggled with this. And like part of it is like, the dojo that I used to go to, it helped me so much with, like, I started because I couldn't handle grief over her cancer diagnosis, and it helped me through so much of that. But I had this, like, all of my grief became fuel for my training, but I had this supportive environment. I had this dojo, I had this family at the dojo. I had found something that finally fit for me. I found a place where I felt like I finally belonged, and I've always felt kind of like on the fringe. Like I've never really felt like I fit in anywhere. And with karate and martial arts, I felt like for the first time I fit in. Like this makes sense to me, and people accept me for who I am, and like I'm this weird dorky person, and I'm really excited about martial arts, and they're cool with that, and that was cool. And so I felt like I could work through all that grief. I could face it in that environment, in that context. But then after I left, it was so much harder. It's so much harder to work through those tough feelings when you don't have that kind of social support, or that, like, you go to a dojo, you have to train because you're there, right? And you get that, there's accountability, there's social pressure. But when you're on your own, it's much, much harder, right? So, yeah, there was something about being in that environment that made it so much easier. And now that I'm not, I have struggled at different times. And like I do have, support from my followers, and I really appreciate that. And I do have a lot of people who check in with me on the regular, like people who follow my karate shrimp stuff, and they check in with me, and that helps so much. But being online can be isolating too, right? So, but yeah, this is my shame, like that like at times I don't feel like a black belt, or I don't feel like a martial artist, and that's my shame that I carry, and I need to fix it. And it's helpful for me to face that so that I can change it, so that I can feel better about it. What can I do so I don't carry that shame anymore? Like one of them talked about in the other day is starting to wear my uniform again when I train, because I'm carrying this shame, this pain, this anger, this grief around it. And I need to face that so that I can love myself again and feel excited about it again. And, so it's no longer bittersweet, but it's just, it fills me with joy and that bliss again, right? So these are ways I think that shame can be helpful, right? And I think, if we double down too much in the shame, it can be toxic. But if we use it to transform ourselves, if we use it as a motivator for growth, like, I don't want to be feeling the shame anymore. I don't want to feel the self-hatred anymore, but I am feeling it. I am feeling it. So what can I do about it? What can I do about it? And really looking at that and not agreeing with it, not saying, oh yeah, I do suck, or I should feel ashamed, or I am a fraud, or I am a horrible person, not agreeing with that voice, but just saying, okay, that voice is there. Why? What can I do to change that? What can I do to change the narrative so I feel strong again, so I feel good again? And I think that process, it is painful. Pulling ourselves out of shame and self-hatred, it is a painful process, but I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be. And for me, I find it's valuable when it is, because then it reminds me I never want to get there again. I never want to fall back into that again. And, there's no guarantee that I won't, but it's a reminder to me, like, that process of pulling myself out of that, of any of us working through that. It's good that it's painful and difficult, because then it reminds us of how wonderful and awesome and valuable it is when we're out of that, and how much we have to fight for that and appreciate that when we are out of that, and to be grateful for that. Yeah. That was a foot. So that's it. I'm losing my voice. I'm going to stop filming now. I'm going to go drink some water. Thank you for being here. That's all for now.